Hello, everyone. Okay, so I have something that I really need to share. Um, God's been putting it on my heart for usually it's like 2 weeks. Usually it's like 2 weeks, and it's like so heavy on my heart, and it's like things keep coming up. I'm like, okay, God. So, what I want to talk about is the wind and the waves. One of the very first scriptures that I read on my own in the Bible, I just remember he's reminding me, he's like taking me back to when I first started reading the Bible on my own, and I just know that I need to share this. So this is in the book of James, chapter 1, verses 5 through 7. It says, "If you need wisdom, ask your generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do." So, when I first read that, I was like, I feel like I am unstable in everything I do. I felt like, man, like it was the first time that I felt conviction. It was the first time I felt like, oh crap, I need to change. I need to be not wishy-washy. That was the word that came to my mind when I read this, was don't be wishy-washy. Don't be this way one day and this way the next day or whatever. Don't be one person. You know what I mean? Just choose. Choose who you're going to be. Choose who you're going to follow and what you're going to be like. And I just remember being like, I shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. Like, it was just kind of like a, oh my gosh moment, you know what I mean? So, I really just wanted to share that. I love how in verse 5 it says, "If you need wisdom, ask your generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking." But when you ask him, make sure that your faith is in God alone and do not waver. So I just want to read that part again. "Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord." And then it's verse 8 that says, "Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do." So the next scripture I want to read is Luke. This is a passage, really. Luke chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. And this, let's see. Chapter 8, verse 22. Next page. Okay, so Jesus calms the storm. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross to the other side of the lake." So they got into a boat and started out. As they sailed across, Jesus settled down for a nap. But soon, a fierce storm came down on the lake. The boat was filling with water, and they were in real trouble. The disciples went and woke him up, shouting, "Master, Master, we are going to drown." When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and the raging waves. Suddenly, the storm stopped and all was calm. Then he asked them, "Where is your faith?" The disciples were terrified and amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "When he gives a command, even the wind and waves obey him." Oh my gosh, so I love this. The first thing that I want to point out in this is, so in verse 23 it says, "As they sailed across, Jesus settled down for a nap." Okay, we need to follow the example of Jesus. We need to, like, he was God, right? And he napped, he rested. It said he settled down for a nap. We need to settle down. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have too much going on. We fill up our lives with all kinds of things, and sometimes we just need to give ourselves a break. It's like, just chill. Just take a nap. You know, just take a nap. I mean, you're not going to, it's just because you're resting doesn't mean the process has stopped. They were still on their way somewhere, right? They were still in the boat, they were on their way, they were still progressing, they were still in the process of getting somewhere. Just because you rest doesn't mean that it stops or slows down your process. Sometimes it's what we need to do in order to keep going. You know what I mean? So I just felt like I really needed to, because we drive ourselves crazy, like trying to keep up with everything and everyone. It's like sometimes we just need to relax, you know? And I love how the disciples, the boat was filling with water and they were in real danger. That stood out to me. They were in real danger because they were, you know, like physically, like in danger, like their lives were in danger, right? The boat was filling up with water. They were like, we're gonna die, you know? And if you think about like what we go through, what our danger is, most of the time the dangers that we face are in the spiritual realm rather than in the physical realm. We deal with mental and spiritual dangers, and oftentimes the spiritual and mental dangers that we face are just as chaotic and it can be just as catastrophic as you know, physical danger, you know, a storm, tornado. Sometimes the spiritual dangers that people face can cause just as much death and, you know, destruction as a natural storm. You know what I mean? Like, don't discount your spiritual storms and, you know, those waves and the storm that goes on inside of us. Like, don't discount it. It's all real. And if Jesus can calm a physical storm, he can calm the storms inside of us too, and he will. So let's see. I wanted to also read Matthew chapter 14. This was also one of the very first things that I read in the Bible that really stood out to me, that I was just amazed, because this is the story of when Jesus walked on the water. And isn't it amazing how our God walks on the thing that is trying to take us down? You know what I mean? Like something that can kill us. He's walking all over it. And that's what he does, y'all. Like, it's just so amazing. So Matthew chapter 14, 22 through 33. So we all know, about Jesus walking on water. Whether you grew up in church or you didn't grow up in church, whatever. Everybody knows about the miracle that Jesus walked on water. Think about, what do you picture when you think about that story? The way I saw it before I read it for myself was, this is the way I saw it. And maybe it's because I've seen pictures or something of it before. I don't know. But Jesus just walking out there, it's broad daylight and there's thousands of people around probably, and maybe people are cheering or oh wow, and he's just doo, 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 walking on the water in front of all these people, all these strangers, and he did it just because he could, just because he was trying to show everybody that he was awesome. This is just what I imagined before I read it for myself. So now I'm gonna read it, and it is nothing like that. It is completely opposite of what I thought. So, all right. Jesus walks on water. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake, while he sent the people home. This was after a big group of people were around. He fed all these people with some little bitty fishes and some little bitty bread. But anyway, so this is where it starts. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross onto the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up to the hills to pray. He went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Okay. Jesus prayed. He removed himself from everybody else. He got alone. Oh, man, it's we really do need to follow this example. If he's doing this, we need to do this too. We need to get alone and pray. It says night fell as he was praying. This means he was there, by himself praying for a long time. I just love everything about Jesus. He's taking naps. He's praying for hours. That's my life right there. That is what I want to do and be every day. 4-hour naps. I know that's a little excessive. That's my problem that I have. I need help, y'all. Okay. So he went. Okay, so night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had came toward them. Oh, hold on. A strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat. Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. "You really are the Son of God," they exclaimed. All right, so I just want to point out real quick, because I noticed that both these times, and the one that I just read about him calming the storm while he was in the boat, he asked the disciples the same thing. Why, where is your faith? And then here, where Peter is walking on the water and he starts to sink because he starts to look at the situation around him, and he takes his eyes off of Jesus. When Jesus saves him, he asks him the same thing. Where's your faith? Why do you have such little faith? So that's something that we have to remember, just keep your faith in those times, in those troubled times, when the wind and the waves, when the storms of life start to crash down around you. Keep your faith. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. All right, so this, like I said, was completely different than what I thought it was before I read it. So first of all, the disciples were in trouble far away. Jesus was on land. He went away and he went to pray by himself. The disciples were in the boat in the middle, far away from land, right? They were in trouble. So what did Jesus do? He went out to save his friends. He didn't just do it in front of all these people like I thought. He didn't just do it for no reason. He did it because his friends needed him. It was the middle of the night. It said it was 3:00 in the morning. Nobody else was around. These are the people that Jesus was with every day. These were the people that were the closest to him and his friends, the ones that he spent every single day with. These were the people that were following him before any miracles, following him during the miracles and after the miracles. So, it wasn't it wasn't anything like I thought. And then after reading about Peter, y'all, that's where the real miracle is. I mean, yes, it's a miracle that Jesus walked on water, but Jesus is God. Jesus can do anything he wants. You know what I'm saying? Peter was a person like us. Peter walked on water. It says, Peter called out to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. Jesus gave Peter the same power that he had to perform the same miracle. And that's what he does for us. He gives us that power. We have that power too. We have that power too. Y'all, it's all about faith. It's all about faith. And I mean, why don't we ever hear about Peter walking on water? You know what I'm saying? Man. And so on top of that, Peter walked on the water. But Jesus knew that Peter wasn't going to last long. He already knew. Peter, because this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our eyes off of Jesus and look at our situation and look at the wind and the waves and how they're about to consume us. And we're going to take our eyes off of Jesus. And that's when we're going to begin to sink. When we take our eyes off of Jesus and we look at our situation, we will begin to sink. That is what's going to happen. That's what happened to Peter. And that's what's going to happen to us. But, y'all, it says, But when Peter saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. And what did Jesus do? Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," he said. "Why did you doubt me?" Then they climbed back into the boat. The wind stopped, and the disciples worshipped him and said, "You really are the Son of God." Okay. That's what Jesus is going to do. When we look away and we start looking at our situation and we start sinking, just don't forget to cry out and say, "Lord, save me." And Jesus will immediately reach his hand out and save you. So I just want to encourage everyone. I just want to encourage you to first, like I said, these were his people. These were the people that were already following him. Follow him. Have faith in him. And then when you start to drown, call out to him. Call out to him. Oh, I wanted to read. Okay. In chapter 14, the last 2 verses, it's a very short passage. It's called Jesus Heals All Who Touch Him. This is right after the verse that says, the disciples worshiped him and said, "You really are the Son of God." It says, after they had crossed the lake, they landed at Gennesaret. When the people recognized Jesus, the news of his arrival spread quickly throughout the whole area, and soon people were bringing all their sick to be healed. They begged him to let the sick touch at least the fringe of his robe, and all who touched him were healed. So all who touched him were healed. So and this is what he's going to do for us, those mental and spiritual storms that go on, those illnesses that we have, physical illnesses, spiritual, mental illnesses. Reach out and touch. It says just the fringe of his robe, and he will. They had faith, y'all. They had faith. They knew who they were dealing with. So, like I was saying, follow him, have faith in him, call out to him when you start to sink. Reach out to him, and he will save you, and he will heal you. That is what he does, y'all. That is what he does. It is awesome. What else did I want to read? There was so much that I was just like, oh my gosh. Philippians 2:5-8. All right, so one thing that kind of caught my eye about this last passage that I just read was that, Jesus, he prayed, and he told them, he'll meet them on the other side or whatever. He went by himself and he prayed. And I thought, whenever I first, came to Christ, this is just a normal thing we think. And I still think, so why did Jesus pray? Because Jesus was God. So, who was he praying to? So I just wanted to read Philippians 2:5-8. It says, "You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross." So that's kind of just what I wanted to say about why he would pray, because he became a human. He humbled himself, and it even says all throughout the Bible about how I think I was actually going to read that. Yeah, John 5:30. Whenever Jesus, before he went to the cross and he was praying to God, he said, "Thy will be done, thy will and not my own," because he knew that he had a purpose. There was a mission to be done here on the earth, right? He could have come and he could have just done anything he wanted, but he had a love mission. He came here because he wanted to show us that he loves us. He's still showing us that. by his example and by what he did and what he's doing, and the fact that he's just so patient and he's waiting and he's knocking, and he's not going to barge into your life. He loves you. He loves you so much, and that's why he came, and that's why he lived the way he lived, and that's why he was humble, and that's why the miracles that he performed weren't like, I'm gonna, he could have made every knee bow and every tongue confess back then. You know what I'm saying? He could have been like, I am God and all y'all are gonna just worship me right now. But he was on a love mission. Yes. All right, so John 5:30, and he's waiting for y'all. He's waiting for you to just accept him, accept his love. It says, Jesus says, I can do nothing on my own. I judge as God tells me. Therefore, my judgment is just, because I carry out the will of the one who sent me and not my own. And then I wanted to read Isaiah. If I can find it. Okay. Isaiah 43, verses 2 and 3. 43. Because like all of these scriptures were just coming to me whenever I was studying this. It says, when you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. So, you feel like you're drowning sometimes. You feel like you're walking through the fires of hell. It says, when you go through deep waters, I will be with you. In the book of Exodus, God parted the Red Sea, the deep waters. He parted the Red Sea so that his people could walk through. And that's what he's going to do for you. And it says, when you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. In the book of Joshua, he stopped the Jordan River so that they could walk across on dry ground again. And then, it says that the flames will not consume you when you feel like you're walking through fire. He will save you. He will. It's not going to consume you because you have faith and you know who loves you. So just remember to look to the one who can calm the storm. Look to the one who can walk on water and can give you the same power to do the same thing, y'all. It says that he said that we would do even greater things than these when he healed someone. He gives us that power. It says the same power that rose him from dead, that raised him back to life after he was killed, that same power lives inside of us. He gives us that power. He gives us the power. It says in the Bible that humanly speaking, it's impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Just don't forget, y'all. It's hard. It's hard for me. I look at the wind and the waves around me, and they start to consume me. But I know better now. I know that I can cry out and call out to Jesus, and he will save me every time. Every time. He is good. He loves you. And I just want to encourage y'all. Don't be wishy-washy. Don't be like a wave of the sea being blown and tossed by the wind. Choose today who it is that you're going to serve. And I promise you, he will be there. He will never leave you or forsake you. He loves you. He loves you so much. So I love you guys, and thank you for watching. I know this was long, but I had a lot to say. So see y'all next time. Bye.